Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to get started. I wanted to thank you all for attending the inaugural data literacy seminar series from the water boards. We have a great speaker today in Joaquin Esquivel, the chair of the water board. Before I get to Joaquin, I wanted to provide a little bit of background and some housekeeping on how this lunch and seminar is going to go. We are being recorded. The video and the recording will be made available after the session, as will the future. This is March is Water Data Month, so it's a special month, and we will be having a seminar every Thursday of this month. And then for preceding months, we'll do it once a month on the third Thursday. I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about how we got there. First of all, my name is Nick Martirano. I'm with the Office of Information Management and Analysis. I am the director for the Water Quality Monitoring Council, and also work under Greg Gearhart, who is the deputy director of OEMA at the water boards. And OEMA has put together this College of Water Informatics. And so how did we get here? We started way back with really did start with the Open Water Data and the Open Transparent Water Data Act back in 2016, which then led to the water boards developing a resolution about open water data in 2018. And in order to kind of kick off that resolution, which had a big emphasis on data literacy, we sent out an agency-wide data use and skills survey. Based on those results, we put together a strategy for how to build our internal data literacy resources with the help of some coaching. And now we're at this point where we're trying to implement this strategy. Here are the four pillars that we have been focusing on within the data literacy. We want to develop and provide training and resources. We want to improve our communication. Participate and host data events, which we have been doing kind of throughout that time period between 2016 and to where we are now. We continue to build on those data events and build our water data community. What we're really trying to do with the College of Water Informatics is to provide a one-stop resource for not only the water board employees, but other stakeholders interested in water data, both the data that we produce, but also other data that we federate with across state agencies and the people we regulate. We have been, it's recently available, and we'll drop the link in the chat if you're not familiar with where the website is. It was just posted maybe a week or two ago and has all sorts of resources that we've been compiling and putting together since the open data resolution was passed back in 2018. We we have an entire open water data toolkit. We have a place where you can access the events that we're posting, including the seminar series and things like the Water Data Science Symposium. We'll be releasing on at least a monthly basis a Water Data Digest, which kind of outlines a little bit about what we're doing in the preceding and current months. And then we also provide educational resources, not only in the data toolkit, but we'll start working with the Training Academy and start building up some actual courses for water board staff to take. And we intend this sort of seminar series to showcase the work that's being done at the water boards, but also highlight stuff that's being done outside the water boards with water boards data and some of the tools and the power of data science and when it's brought together with water quality monitoring and data science. Here's the website I just mentioned, and here are the four kind of pillars that are shown here. I encourage you to check it out, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the email list. That's where we're going to provide all of the information moving forward on all the great data projects we're working on. So the next steps, we're in this experimentation page. This is our first one. We're kind of, we're excited about this, and we're hoping that this is a valuable experience for all of you. And we will be using surveys at the end of these to get feedback from you all if it's as valuable, if you're looking for something with a little bit more information, a little bit less information. And it is going to rely on a constant feedback loop with you all. We want to make this a valuable experience for you all. That's the end goal. So how's it going to work today? we're going to have this is obviously a webinar format. So if you have questions and questions, we will answer for the speaker. Go ahead and drop them in the Q&A function. If you wish to speak after Joaquin's finished speaking, just raise your hand in the participants area. It should be by the reactions area in Zoom. Then once Joaquin is ready to have questions, I'll unmute you and you can give your question verbally. The chat box will be provided as a way for us to communicate with you directly. We'll drop in links and the feedback survey after the webinar is over. So on to our speaker, the most important thing, which you're all here and tuned in for. Joaquin Esquivel has been graciously accepted the keynote position for this seminar series. He's been the board chair since 2017. He has been, since his appointment, has been a great data advocate. He's been participating in many of our data events. He's including the Data Science Symposium and being a keynote speaker there. He's highly involved in efforts related to the Open and Transparent Water Data Act. And he's going to speak to you about building the water boards into a 21st data-driven organization and all the things that he's been spearheading and staff has been behind and how important data is to everything that we're doing. So with that, I will hand it over to Joaquin.
Thanks so much, Nick. Really appreciate the great introduction, but importantly, your leadership and work in setting up this seminar series, but also this college through the Training Academy to really start to provide a basis of understanding for our staff on how best to use these new and emerging tools and tools that we're looking to further really resource at the State Water Board. Because to Nick's point, you know, the opportunity here to become a 21st century regulatory agency is a real one. And I think that, you know, and I'm certainly biased, but there's no greater agency out there with the opportunities to better leverage data, to better connect what is a broad purview, as you all know, on water quality and water rights and drinking water, and even financial assistance to do better by what are always limited resources for us. So I think, again, just want to kind of start with thanks to Nick for his leadership, start with thanks as well to Greg Gearhart and the Office of Information Management and Analysis, Karen Mogus, John Bishop, really ultimately as well, Darren at the Division of Drinking Water. You know, I think to my mind, there are so many champions of this work for you all in the programs and even external stakeholders who are doing our homework with us, as we like to say, following along in our regulatory processes, looking at the same data that we are, and checking our homework. You all well know we're just an incredible decision-making body, disparate amongst the 68 fully appointed regional water board members, state water board members, and we are fortunate for you all's day in, day out dedication to the mission of this agency and interest in expanding these tools, gaining new skill sets that really set us up for success in a 21st century that is dominated by huge challenges like climate change and racial equity. And here, this data discussion is a door that opens up, what are the policy potentials that we all then work within. And there can always be disagreements therein, but how do we better just leverage this decision-making that we do with greater emphasis on these tools and these programs? And so this is a small part of that work, but a really critical one in just trying to raise the level of technical expertise and ability of you all as you engage in the board's mission critical work. And so just thank you for having this interest. Thank you for, again, Nick and folks for inviting me to share thoughts here. I'm less, as you well know, as a practitioner necessarily in this work, but just we'll say, in my previous work, I was a director of information and technology in Senator Boxer's office. I've managed, systems the administration of, our little server farm that kept our operation running. But that's very different. That 70-person operation to what is here, 2,000 strong of us, and the complexities that come with navigating IT contracting and just, the resources that sometimes, as we all know, state agencies sometimes aren't over-resourced. And it's in this data systems, tech side that we've seen other agencies struggle. And I think, again, the spirit of this training academy and this work and why I'm here to kick it off is just to imbue, hopefully with you all, a lot of excitement for this work and to follow it up on my part with real movement on things like our website update, which is, a fundamental platform for all of this regulatory work, all this data, assimilation, accumulation, and also, presentation when it comes to this whole data enterprise that you were all part of. And again, that this series and ultimately the College of Informatics are meant to help better facilitate, knowing again that we're not over-resourced, but I'm here to continue to advocate for those. I want to make sure and acknowledge, and do some table setting here when it comes to, we're, an agency now, at least as constituted through Porter Cologne, when it united that water rights office, established in 1914, and local pollution control boards and a state pollution control board, which was established only in the late 40s, and recognized prior to then, on the water rights side or on the water quality side, it was left, it was not administered, those things, quantity and quality in the state, in a way that was comprehensive. And, in the late 40s and even the run up to then the Clean Water Act and Porter Cologne, we all know that our watersheds were in terrible condition. You didn't, it was verifiable. It wasn't, we had rivers on fire in Ohio. We had terrible contamination throughout. But since those 50 years, we've slowly improved our water quality and improved the administration of water rights, but we have a long way to go. And really, if you look back, our first data systems, our actual sort of, computer-based data systems, date back to, late 90s, early 2000s, really, as I understand, when through the leadership actually of board member Doduck, and here needing to acknowledge her early insight and foresight, along with leadership at the time, to say we need to start developing data systems, CDIN and then or CIDWIS, CWIX rather, sorry, the acronym of soup of what are, I think, over 60 enterprise systems that the board has, is part of this challenge, but nonetheless developed, again, with great intention to bring transparency to the boards, to better show our decision making and prioritize our work by better leveraging data systems. We have a lot of historic, again, leadership there, dating back even to the formation of this agency, when it was acknowledged that we needed to have a more comprehensive approach. They needed to be data-driven and information-based. And it's the water regulatory programs that we've built out, but always needing attention and always needing to be refreshed. And so, that is what we have here as an opportunity. I want to acknowledge the incredible work that you all do day in, day out in these programs. And, whether you're at the Division of Financial Assistance and you have, the loans grants tracking system, LGTS, whether you're, again, at the Division of Drinking Water and you have CIDWIS that you're dealing with as your main database, or CWIX or Gamma, or the many, soup of acronyms, again, that you all will know. I just want to acknowledge that there is incredible work already going on here. And so the spirit and the desire is to, how do we better create a common basis of support for it? I'll quickly, gloss, excuse me here. I know that certain programs like PFAS or approach to PFAS have seen particular, emphasis and really just grassroots development of, using R, but then also other programming languages to look at the prevalence of PFAS, and where there's missing data, use machine learning to try to create probability analyses around where the incidence of PFAS may occur. Incredible work, and really, to an extent, grassroots and kind of homegrown within the capacity of staff at the water boards. And so, again, I think it's important to start off by acknowledging that you all are in pursuing many of these data projects, pursuing both coding languages or platforms like Microsoft BI, which I know Rafa will, in a future seminar series here, cover. And so thank you. Thank you for continuing to innovate, even sometimes without, again, what I would see as adequate resources to really fully become a 21st century regulatory agency with a data enterprise that wholly is being invested in at the the reporting level up through where it lives within our agency, and ultimately how it makes its way back out, both as decision making for us, but also the public's understanding of our decision making. And so I think there's a number of bright spots. I've been fortunate these last 4 years to have seen a number of bright spots where there's good work going on, and we want to continue to ensure that we support it. Part of that support, and that support to you all, includes the reality of where we find ourselves here after the last year of the COVID crisis, the pandemic, and then also the economic downturn that we find ourselves with. The nature of our work, the way we all interact together on the programmatic level, on our issues with stakeholders, it's all turned upside down. I mean, it is a completely different world that we have had to deal with. You all will know, being on the front lines as it is of the programs, and how we continue our work. But I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of that transition of this agency, of your all's emphasis on continuing to do the good work, and even leveraging. When it comes to this platform, this Zoom engagement that we're on now, or even just the board meetings, the workshops that are going on, the nature of the way we work, the tools that we use are quickly changing. And so we should be mindful of continuing to take advantage of those changes in ways that really continue to improve our decision making. Again, we're just this incredible decision making body around critical issues like drinking water and water rights and water quality, and so these challenging changes in this last year, I think, particularly because of their nexus with remote sensing, with continuing to develop other sources of data as you conduct your work that are, again, necessitate desktop tools, necessitate more standardization of the things that we are offering you to analyze that data, because it's increasingly satellite data. It's increasingly of a scale, scope, and nature that require us to really, and again, and focus on these programs here at the Training Academy to really rise to the occasion and bring these resources to you all. And to my mind, it really is about the future of work, and the future of this agency, and how it conducts its work, and the expectations from the public. And there, I'll just, I have to note that this work is incredibly important because it builds trust of what is at this moment, as we know, often a mistrust of government, a mistrust of regulatory bodies or the work that is done within them, because it's sometimes not incredibly accessible. And you all will know, very technical at times. And so to the extent that we're leveraging opportunities to display data, to show the data that is the basis of our decision making in ways that provides access, promotes understanding, and invites people to engage with our decision making, is really important, because otherwise it can seem a bit inaccessible. And this work of increasing our data literacy, increasing the tools that we use around our decision making to ensure that they are accessible and through and explorable, I think is really important, and I think is an incredible opportunity to build back some trust in our decision making and invite, again, our stakeholders, all Californians, whether they're a regulated entity, they're a concerned community member, or otherwise, or an academic institution, who can help be partners in bringing a better analysis or tools, again, to make us into better decision makers or help support us in our decision making, is really important. It's a bridge. These projects, this work, are bridges to understanding for everyone involved, including ourselves, around how we best implement what are, a lot of incredible work in specific programs. I think to the MPDS program, or our storms unit, or the oceans unit, and the ocean plan, and a lot of the work even in there. I'll have to actually, my mind is kind of glossing on the different ways that I have seen improvements, I'll say, over the last 4 years in the way we've worked, the way we continue to, although, certainly not at the pace that, my impatience and I think others sometimes would warrant, but have made headway in this data space and bringing resources. And I think of the integrated report, where we're there, such an incredible data lift when it comes to the lines of evidence. They're feeding in from CDIN or CWIX or other sources of information, and increasingly more into decision points for the boards as they develop on the water quality side for the integrated report, those water bodies that aren't meeting standards, and or those that have, can come off the list. We, as you well know, have a huge state, and there are an enormous amount of water bodies, and our basin plans enumerate incredible amounts of information as to the protection of those beneficial uses. How we automate all that bureaucracy, how we continue to, and this is, again, what I'm trying best to do is impart, hopefully, a sense of excitement from you all, from what the possibilities are, and then really start to, continue to advocate for resources around specific projects. But again, the integrated report, an example at the Division of Water Quality, where additional computer coding, a little, additional emphasis on the data systems behind the report and the process of decision making there has yielded huge benefits. We're slowly catching up to what was an incredible backlog because of the data exercise, and point to that great leadership as an example of some of the progress definitely seen. And again, PFAS, another really exciting space where the Division of Water Quality and Division of Drinking Water really coming together and better sharing data across what, on the Division of Drinking Water side is a very new new division for us, but in ways that really impact and improve the state's ability to respond to something so complex and dispersed as PFAS, where it really does require us to better coordinate that drinking water response as we also look at the water quality and watershed-wide responses. So, want to make sure and note that there is a lot of good progress, for as much as I like to make sure and emphasize how we need the resources ultimately to conduct this work, and have a great example of the ready capacity of you all to engage in and expand upon the various tools and discussions that are out there, and create more of a culture of innovation and openness to, and at the same time standardizing, which is difficult, because I think of the 60 some odd enterprise systems as, needing to have greater curation, as well as we kind of think through what is a long-term 10, 20-year vision here for the types of tools, types of support that we all are needing to see and have for you all in the programs, as you do the incredible but common work around needing better data and being better decision makers with that. I would like to, acknowledge that, again, even the way we work is quickly changing. COVID has really, caused all of us to have to reconsider it. That's exciting. Those are opportunities, but also there's other ways that, norms are sort of shifting around the way we work, the tools we have as we do that work, and the expectations moving forward. I think of, just the generational norms as well about how government should work, the criticality of transparency, And I think that there's ways that all matches up for some really incredible continued opportunities. And I think there of our Safe and Affordable program as well. I think of the racial equity discussion that's been going on in this nation, and certainly in the state, and how we can continue to use data or see data as just this foundational thing that we can focus on that actually makes us those better decision makers by highlighting communities that haven't been seen otherwise, or even incorporating just, and here I think of the redlining project and the presentation later in the seminar series that you all will have, and really looking forward to the specific work there of, how do you better incorporate considerations that might very much help us implement our programs in a way that don't repeat maybe the inequities that, if not for the data to show them, we might be unaware of otherwise, and to more intently take a look at how we overcome what are complex challenges for us on the drinking water side, certainly, and the water quality side, or even the water rights administration side. But don't become any easier to solve when we aren't incorporating important demographic information and other information that just lets us see the challenges a little more clearly, and maybe ways that there are policy solutions that, again, absent the data, we can't contemplate or really see otherwise. And so there is what is just really an incredible opportunity, I think, for us, and encouraged by the specific work, again, that goes into understanding the communities that we serve, and understanding that not all communities have access to our decision making in the same way, or at all. And this door around data, around information, and the invitation for communities to join us in our decision making by leveraging those platforms is really important. Let me see, how am I doing on time? So I've been chatting for a bit, about 30 minutes now. I do want to, and please, as add comments here to the chat, start to think about questions. I'm here to obviously provide a gloss from the way I've kind of seen things here as chair for 2 years now. It's hard to believe that it's been 4 years now that I've been on the board. Even after 4 years, there's an incredible amount that goes on in the programs on a daily basis that I'm not aware of. And so if you have questions for me, if there's a particular aspect of some of this that you're looking to unearth, by all means, I'm here for that engagement more than just kind of being a one-way discussion here on what is, again, for me, it's such a principal thing that we have an opportunity to do, and it's become a 21st century regulatory agency built on ideals of openness, transparency, and using data and data systems to do better with what is always not enough, but importantly, to then leverage the collective decision making that we have as Californians, and inviting people to look at our homework, to second guess any decisions or rationale that we may be pointing to in our water quality, water rights, or drinking water work, and be stronger for it, because it is what creates trust in our decision making, and it is what makes us be better decision makers in the long term. I just want to maybe just acknowledge that Governor Newsom has made a real focus and an emphasis on better resourcing our agencies and understanding, whether it's through GovOps, and I want to acknowledge the leadership of Stuart Drown there for many years in our implementation of as what many of you know as AB 1755, but leaving aside the bill numbers, it's our California's Open Water Data and Transparency Act. It is our guiding legislation, and thank as well the leadership of DWR and all of this work and discussion, because we have a lot of opportunities, both also at the Water Data Consortium, and have to give a great nod to the leadership there for continuing to provide a forum to know that the state's not always the best resource necessarily to leverage decision-making platforms or invest in them or get them across the finish line, but that projects like OpenET, which is an open evapotranspiration project, that our Delta Water Master, Mr. Michael George, has shown, and our Division of Water Rights staff have shown great leadership in, where there it's a project to better understand on the water rights side how we understand water use, absent an ability to measure or have measuring devices on every diversion within the Delta or any watershed. And so an example of the sort of leadership and opportunities, both through, again, Governor Newsom's leadership and focus on helping get a chief data officer, getting some key changes to or looking at key changes even to procurement to help us better get in these resources, knowing that we're challenged as a state. So, want to acknowledge that leadership, the folks over at the Water Data Consortium as well, because and the Internet of Water, a national group that I know Greg Gearhart has worked well with, and ourselves, and many of you are involved in similar projects. There's quite the ecosystem of projects with external groups and both internal that have been bubbling up. And I think, part of this work, here, this seminar series, the College of Informatics, is to better standardize that, but then also start to track better, at the executive level for ourselves, those many projects that are going on, and see some commonality and really use them to leverage the sorts of changes and the access to programs, or desktop modeling, or just a better understanding our place in that data ecosystem statewide. There's a lot of opportunities there. There continue to be, and I encourage you all to continue to engage with AB 1755 and the Open Water Data Act, the partner agency team that I know exists between our agency and DWR there, or at the Water Data Commission, or the Water Data Consortium rather, and want to really thank Nicholas as well, Nick, for his participation on that steering committee, and Rafa, who's a co-chair. There's ways the administration continues to make this work a priority for all of us, and certainly ways that, as you've heard, I see it as a priority. I think our executive staff continue to do, and want to hear what your continued ideas are, and structure ultimately the support that we're providing for you to do better in this data space, and be able to contribute even more thoroughly to what are a lot of really great and incredible projects like OpenET out there that are being driven by consortium or outside NGOs, but have real nexus and benefit to the work that we do. And if we can get that consideration into projects, can really contribute and do better by these efforts. And there I'll even, just not to be too scattershot, but flag, I know the Environmental Defense Fund has worked on the OpenET project, and is also similarly working with a lot of our staff on Sustainable Groundwater Management Act front. How we, how do you look at, the openness and open source platforms, and providing them to GSAs, to implementing agencies, to be better decision makers, and how does that kind of fit in with the sorts of data sources that we have at the board, DWR has, others that support that good decision making on the local level, and that can scale up ultimately and be based off of the same sorts of decision making that we at the board might do as we look at groundwater recharge, or or water rights permitting. I think there's a lot of excitement around the continued interoperability and opportunity we have to do better, but it's always a matter of resources, and it's always a matter of having not just the bodies but the dollars to engage well. And so that's where I guess I very much am focused on and come in to support you all. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
awesome.
I've gone on long enough.
You've done. I know it's all great. It's like I said, just having the advocacy from the top down is crucial to getting this type of work uplifted, and to the dedication to allow us to build our internal resources and build these data science resources to help us. Making the data open is one thing, but taking it and turning it into valuable information to help you do your job better, but also build transparency and trust is great for us as a regulatory agency to talk with our stakeholders and the people we regulate, which I was going to bring up, but luck would have it, we have a question right along those lines from Evelyn Wendell, who's from WeTap in Southern California. She asks, in your opinion, what is missing and how can we build greater trust with the public about water quality standards and safety protocols and data integrity? And how can we better reach communities across the state?
Thank you for that great question. Coincidentally, I think it was just yesterday, the Environmental Policy Innovation Center, EPIC, who had, with support from the Bechtel Junior Foundation and others, put on what was known as a Water Data Prize around consumer confidence reports, came out yesterday. Their final report from it. And for those of you that may not know, consumer confidence reports are actually required both by the state Safe Drinking Water Act that we have that allows us to have primacy on implementation of what is the federal Safe Drinking Water Act, overseen by US EPA. And common to both of those are what's known as consumer confidence reports. They are required by law, and every water agency serving a certain number, I think it's all community water systems, have to provide a yearly summary of what the quality of their water is. And it is, I think, for many agencies, sometimes a check the box, sort of like what are the, because there are actually some pretty specific technical requirements in what is in that consumer confidence report, both by the feds and even ourselves at this point. I can see my consumer confidence report up on my wall here, and it's a pretty daunting table, and it doesn't often, and because agencies aren't often resourced well, it doesn't often communicate well just the key parts or key messages that you should really be taking away, and you're a bit inundated with a lot of numbers, a lot of data, good numbers and data. But I think to Nick's point, it's about turning numbers and data into information, and information are things that people can take and use and be empowered by. And so consumer confidence reports, I think, are a really just a specific project that are an easy first start at. It's required by law. It's a document that needs updating. These principles, we're talking about 21st century, ideals around transparency and information, but also the platforms that can deliver that information are really relevant, because you can not just have a PDF printout of a CCR, which you provide your constituents, but there may be a website that helps you explore the data or present the data in a way that more accurately reflects the level of concern that you should have, what it means, trends, and open up that discussion of trust with the water agency and their customers in a way that, again, similarly to what we're looking to do with our programs, invite people in to see the data, invite people to understand what is it that's being presented, and recognize that that has to be resourced. You have to resource that. You can't just check a box. If we're going to build the sort of trust in tap water that, although, and this is where, the balancing act for us certainly comes in, is there's a million Californians without access to clean and safe water that we know is the case. But it means that for a majority of us, we are being served clean, healthful, and water, and we want people to trust the tap. We want to build that tap, but at the same time, know that there are many places where you can't trust the tap, and you need to know when that is the case, and otherwise have confidence and not buy bottled water needlessly, or be scared off by what can sometimes be a rather intimidating and daunting list of chemical soups that we have created for ourselves in our lived environment here. But that we have to continue to be focused on. And there it's like PFAS and emerging concerns that the CCR is that platform to kind of provide, even start to flag what's coming up. And we do our best to do so as well. But oftentimes, as you know, Evelyn, these challenges are specific unto the water agency. So it's really needing to emphasize and build the capacity, I think, for those 3,000 plus systems that the water board at least regulates that serve water in the state of California. So thank you for the question. I think to be specific, I think CCRs are a great first place to start, but it is generally how we continue to help people understand if the tap is safe to drink, and when so, celebrate that you have and emphasize the use of tap water, because it's an incredible investment that we all make, and need to trust. And again, that trust is paramount in everything that we do. So yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks, Joaquin. Maybe you could talk about a little bit about how the use of these new kind of data business intelligence rules tools like Power BI, Tableau, and R have helped you make some of your decisions better informed, and have the discussions that we would have with outside stakeholders be a little bit more clear. Recognize that, oh, look, it's one thing to look at a big data set or a data system and an Excel spreadsheet, but it's another to see something on a map and to kind of actually show and visualize the data into information that's more digestible. Maybe some recent examples of how you've leveraged that data, both maybe the drought or COVID-19 wastewater-based epidemiology stuff. Safer, you've mentioned, would be kind of interesting.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Definitely, you look at like water conservation in the state of California. And in the teeth of the last drought, the board had a mandatory conservation in place. We started to track on a monthly basis urban water production to understand if we were meeting conservation goals in the middle of that. And that monthly reporting has stuck on. And so the visualizations that came from having that now monthly data point, the drive and policy that we saw in the middle of the drought, insofar as Californians being aware of meeting or not meeting conservation targets and adjusting their water usage, and at this point ways that have like stuck. That was all, again, a really premised off of having a data point that then allowed us to highlight whether or not we're meeting a goal, and had impact then on actual Californians, where now we have maintained so much of that conservation and that efficiency, and we can verify that because of our monthly production data, and seeing with greater information what's happening statewide, and that, again, that data point kind of driving the policy in of itself in a way, because yeah, it was that, I think that was a powerful example for me, where it, to your question, it was about the, so the visualization of the data and, what it means for them tracking these goals. But even more importantly, it was all the way to, just even having the data point, which it didn't exist before, empowering and driving the ability to achieve those policy goals. I think it's like kind of a complete picture sort of like moment. And to your point, I think the other area that there's a lot of powerful examples of how this increased analysis, technical understanding, analysis, data mining, if you will, that goes on, and they can go on and does go on in the programs, but that ultimately help us be better decision makers, is around a safe and affordable fund, better understanding these, these soon to fail or at-risk systems, as we say, where the goal of the program is to be better informed by data as to the sorts of intervention strategies we can be having with systems before they get to a point where they're no longer serving clean and safe water, which is always more expensive in the long run. And so trying to get ahead of, that ever kind of growing and shrinking and, 2 steps forward, 1 step back list of systems out of compliance, and looking a little upstream that is based off of data. It's, we have a needs analysis that will be coming out here in this month that you all will see, how it's an exercise that is leveraged better analysis, these tools, but also thinking about how we collect data on systems to begin with that form and feed, again, that kind of holistic, systems approach around ingestion of the data, getting better data to begin with, and that leading to better policy discussions and outcomes therefrom based off of the analysis of that information. So, it really is having the information to begin with that actually gets you to a discussion and able to even apply things like Power BI or Tableau or the Gloss, and is like such an incredible and important part of that whole ecosystem to focus on. And so, see it there again in safer, but even in our COVID survey, which we recently conducted, and many at the Division of Drinking Water were very intimately involved with, and others in setting out a statistical approach. How many systems do we need to understand, get answers from, in order to have a sense of the statewide amount of water debt that's accumulated because of the economic downturn and COVID response. And was a very again, number crunching sort of intensive exercise. But our workshop, I think unearthed just the sort of the tools that we ended up, the computer, the information science, computer science, sort of statistical methods that we use to ensure that we were getting good data with the least touch. Another example just very recently of some some further growth and opportunity, and again, making us then better decision makers, and even being able to quantify the amount of debt in the state, and that benefit to then implementing federal programs that at this point, there are tranches of dollars around. So yeah, I think those come to mind as real examples of ways that we're using more now.
All great examples. Thanks, Joaquin. A couple of questions. One from Glenn Lowe, who I was actually going to ask. My question was going to be, if I didn't get any other questions, was how important it is to engage with our external stakeholders and leverage their expertise. And Glenn Lowe is going to be an example. So a question from Glenn is, the California Water Resilience Portfolio specifically cites water data as a key priority. Can you talk about what other priorities sections of the water portfolio you feel can be specifically helped by improved water data? In short, how can we practically improve water resilience, achieve actual water outcomes via better water data?
Yeah, thank you, Glenn, and thank you for being such a strong partner with us and all of this. As I kind of maybe off repeated here over and over again, it is about the resources to actually accomplish the work, and the continuum of those resources are to those external stakeholders, where important projects being driven again by EDF, by yourselves, I know, and others, with local leadership and stakeholders are really important, because the state is really big. The spirit of AB 1755 and the Open Water Data Act to kind of have it all better synthesized into common decision making and improving our disparate decision making, but particularly at the local level, importantly, is critical. And so, to your point, these various forums, I know there's a number of different groups out there, and sometimes specific to projects like OpenET or like the groundwater recharge and assessment tool. I know that you and our staff have been focused and working on as well. Better just understanding where those are. And I think the Water Data Consortium is part of us trying to just understand where the various projects are, allow there to be just innovation happening, because it's not about but kind of allow that innovation to happen, but better supported at a more fundamental level. And I think it's part of that is awareness of the projects that are going on in the state for us, but it's also just continued care to our actual data systems that we have custody over. Glenn, that in AB 1755 we have really a federated data approach to this work. And so, which means that we depend upon data at Fish and Wildlife. We depend upon data at DWR. They depend upon data that we at the water boards have. And so the interoperability therein is like a huge focus of AB 1755 in our time. But to your point, it's those external stakeholders that we continue to engage with and hopefully better structure and understand, what are the projects out there? What should we be focusing on? And where are people maybe duplicating some discussion, which I know sometimes happen and can. Again, I think the state is too big. There's so much innovation going on. We want to see all that, but we also want to start to see how it all kind of adds up into some really maybe key projects out there. I think OpenET is probably the furthest along. It's been going for several years now and has some practical applications for us on the water rights side and the administration of it. And so, I think, and just again, I appreciate the question, Glenn. I think the way we continue to engage and do better is by just better understanding, whether it's at the Water Data Consortium, the Internet of Water folks, groups like EDF or Earth Genome, where there are different projects, where, what the intent is, where's there overlap amongst them. And I think we're looking to make sure that through AB 1755 and the partner agency team, we do some of that as well. So.
Thanks, Joaquin. Another question from Ryan Shepard. With GSPs starting to be implemented, many agencies will be aggregating groundwater data at levels we haven't seen before. There's a lot we can learn from analyzing this data. Are there any open data systems under discussion for allowing access to this data with consideration of privacy concerns?
Yeah, that's I know that's it's a balance there because there's sometimes I think the sensitive information that folks feel within definitely the GSP development and their participation in the groundwater sustainability agencies, that you want to tread that line, but you do want, I think to your point, these sort of aggregate data that help since there is all this monitoring, additional assessment that the GSAs will be doing. How does it, kind of aggregate up in ways that are appropriate to protect, privacy concerns certainly that folks will have, but kind of leverage our decision making. I don't know of any currently, real effort. I know there's discussion at the Department of Water Resources. They're an incredible technical assistant and resource as we move through groundwater sustainability management plan implementation. And to your point, the sorts of data that will be reported up to the department, I think definitely is a desire to make sure that again, it actually is helping us. That information isn't just kind of collected and sitting somewhere, which is actually a concern, even just of course with our own programs, and is kind of this focus and spirit around needing to make sure that if we're asking for information, that it ends up being used in better decision making. If not, how do we unearth it? How do we kind of break it out and think about it in that data enterprise and ensure that it be there. Again, on groundwater specific, I'm trying to think through if I know of anything that is out there. I know not in aggregate, but at least on the local level, there are projects like the Freshwater Trust, who's in Solano County, I know, and they've built out a back-end blockchain ledger that creates some transparency, but also, I think, some trust certainly probably ultimately amongst the pumpers there in the Solano County basin to, kind of create a data system that, at least on that local level can be used as, better trading of credits, better monitoring of real world conditions and how that is all, how that allows them to meet their sustainability goals. So, I think for now, a lot of that is just kind of within the GSAs and GSPs, but I think to your point, there is a great opportunity to say, well, how do we make sure that it all actually can be aggregated in ways that help us do better? And I think, to my mind, there's I know on the stream gauging for surface water side, there's an effort because of SB 19, I think it is, for us to just better understand, that network of stream gauges. And part of that discussion as well, there are entities with information on stream gauging that maybe it's not a state entity, but how do you get that information out and maybe again protect any privacy concerns, but allow us to actually do better and take that information, although developed by maybe a water agency or a manager, can still be used in these other programs. And I think that's the same spirit here in your question around GSAs and the groundwater data that they'll be generating and making sure that it adds to some better aggregate understanding of the challenges we have.
Great, thanks, Joaquin. And I think probably lastly, from Rich Pallou, previously referenced in his work on the CCRs. As a data scientist, I place a premium on the reproducibility in the work that I do. Stable data schema, which are rule books for how data is stored, can help standardize and streamline data, making data interoperable across data producers, curators, and users. Does the board see it as their role to create, promote, and require regulatory data to be submitted according to stable data schema?
Yes. Easy answer. Yes, very much. And thank you, Rich, for the question and your collaboration and support and all of this work. And really taking it further. And so on that though, yes, but we don't do it very well. It is important that, And I know Greg, and as part of our open data resolution that the board passed, some of the work is going through and ensuring that we are providing those sort of consistent data schema. I know, and here, there's different pockets and different sort of extents that we have work going on, but the Division of Drinking Water, the SAFER program comes to mind, where the yearly electronic report maybe suffered from a little bit of inconsistency year to year in some of the schema, even some of the whether it's liters or gallons, some of the measurements that are and numbers that are provided often sometimes not standardized, and often because our forms weren't sophisticated enough or didn't have built into them the sorts of logic that can really help just make sure that at the onset when someone is entering data in, it's either converting and understanding that you're putting in gallons and ultimately we're looking for acre feet, or whatever it may be. That sort of intelligence on the back end can be really important. So yes, it is our purview. It's our responsibility to make sure that's the case, and need to continue to focus on doing it better and resourcing that. But I know that, again, there are different pockets, looking at the yearly electronic report, making sure that we have consistent schema and are communicating it to the many thousands of water agencies that have to enter it in, so that we're not spending a bunch of time and wasting, if you will, a bunch of time doing QA QC on the back end, when it could have been better just considered and put in at the front end in the development of the program, or the the particular questionnaire or reporting requirement that we have. So we'll keep going through that. I'll see definitely wanting to see that be a little more method, maybe more of a methodology behind how we prioritize which data sets and move through. But we need to be better at providing that schema and that data, which includes on the GIS side for us as well.
Sure. No, I think it's a great point, and that probably a great way to kind of tie this all together and end this great talk today. I think that what Rich brought up is a great point, and it's in what your response is basically, yes, we're trying to, and it's a learning curve for us. And generally we might try to contract this type of stuff out, but recognizing that under Governor Brown's administration and others, that we're tasked with kind of building these resources internally so that we can better do and handle these data systems that we might not have been classically trained as a data scientist to do. And that's really the point of a seminar like this and the series that we're trying to build, and the data literacy that we're trying to build within the water boards, is to build an awareness of what these skill sets are, the value that they provide to not only to yourself as our main decision lead and the board itself, but also to our myriad of external stakeholders, both the people we regulate, the independent data scientists, consultants, the public, who is our main customer, you could argue, and how, if we can take this data that we've been collecting for years and then turn it into something that makes it, not like you mentioned, not only useful but used, and we want it to be used. And that's kind of the grounding force behind the water data resolution and this whole movement that built this data literacy. Is we want to build energy behind these skill sets, get people interested and involved. And I think this was a great kickoff event, and I hope that people will start returning to the next week's, which will actually be more like showcasing, some of these, that we do have resources in-house. They're just limited. So, you can't ask one person to be doing everything, but they're going to showcase some of the tools and some of the skills they have, and hopefully get folks interested and staff interested in building their own skill sets and dedicating some time, and then, getting managers and upwards also interested in letting their staff dedicate some time and learning some of these new skills to help everybody do their job better and build the trust and transparency. But I just want to say thank you, Joaquin, for doing this today and helping us kick it off. And thanks to Anna for providing a link to the data training that we are providing in the data toolkit. But I just want to say thank you again, Joaquin, for the time you gave today. I know you're busy, so this is great.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick, and thanks to everyone else as well. Again, hopefully it kind of whetted your appetite for the rest of the seminar series here and the potential, and know that, from the very top here, we are looking to better support you all in this work, and are open to continued ideas on how we just do that. And so glad that we're providing this series as a starting point, certainly, but a lot more work to be done. So thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joaquin. And yeah, any of you, there'll be a survey that'll be dropped in, and if you guys could take that, that would help us plan future events. But thanks again, Joaquin, and have a great day.
All right, thanks everyone. See you soon.